Hello, how we doing?
How's it going?
Good.
You look so cozy and comfy in your hoodie.
Yeah, this is my home office.
Your home, this is your work from home style.
Work from home style. Yeah, here I can give you a little look.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I love all the bricks.
There's Stella, my little poodle.
Aw.
We got the dog and then we got mood boarding right there. That's
That's
it.
like the perfect setup right there. I love it.
Yep.
So cozy. All right, Jackson. Well, let's introduce you to everyone. For anyone who doesn't know you, do you want to just start by saying, like, obviously your name is Jackson, and and then more about the company and kind of who you are and what you do.
Yeah, my name is Jackson Schwartz. I'm the co-founder and creative director of Hennepin Made. We're a blown glass lighting company. You can see this vase behind me, I made.
That's
So my background is,
right behind your head. What is that?
that's a vase. Let's
It's
see if I can get,
so cool. Ooh, I love it.
yeah.
It looks like it could also be a weapon if needed.
Yes. Yep, we use it for that too.
Just if you needed it.
Yeah.
Okay, keep going. Sorry. Hennepin
Um,
Made.
So besides making weapons that are glass vases as well, we make lighting primarily. So we have a glass studio in downtown Minneapolis. Everything's made by hand. My background is art, and I went into art school to learn glass blowing about 15 years ago now. And in 2011, we founded our studio, and by 2012, we were making lighting. And so just the last probably 4 to 5 years, we've really focused on A&D and the trade.
I think that's so amazing. And I actually got to tour your space, which was so fun. So we have a video of that. So everyone should check that out. I think that's on IG Live, but it's definitely on YouTube. So that was pretty fun. So your like glass blowers too are very cool. Like it's a very hip, cool
It's
space.
very hip. Yes.
Lots of shoes everywhere, lots of art.
Yeah.
I feel like most people know what glass blowing is, but if they don't, like it's just such an interesting process, Jackson.
Yeah, once you start, you can't stop really. So when we make a piece, we gather the glass of the furnace, and that's, it's like a sporting event. That's the start of the game, and you either gonna win or lose in about 30 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
And
How many people do you have working for you now at this point?
Pre-pandemic, we had about 6 full-time glass blowers in the shop every day.
Okay.
We haven't had to do any layoffs in Hennepin Made. As far as our production crew, but we have shifted our schedule around. So we only have 2 glassblowers working at a time just for safety
Okay.
precautions.
So they're able to still keep working in the space though. That's awesome.
Yep. Yeah. So
Okay.
they're still, at it every day.
Crank it away. So,
Hmm.
okay, so there's so much to your business besides just like, so it started with the glass blowing. Obviously, that's the main bulk of your business. But like,
Hmm.
can you talk about kind of the additions to the business that have popped up as you've gone? I think that's really interesting.
Yes. So in 2016, we had outgrown our facility. We rented in a large warehouse building that had a lot of different businesses in it. So in 2016, we purchased a site right on the edge of downtown in sort of an underdeveloped area or district. And over the
What's
period of,
what's the district going to be called? Isn't it going to be called something cool, or is that
yeah,
is it
no,
top
it's not
secret?
secret.
Okay,
It's gonna be called Root District, ROOT, Root District.
very cool. Okay.
And it has a farmers market. It's the oldest farmers market in Minneapolis. It's about a 100-year-old farmers market on the same block as us. So that's where the name kind of Root originated. And the concept was that we're tying it to the farmers, but then also we're really investing as a company into that through a placemaking effort and trying to be a catalyst for that neighborhood to really get a foundation and get some momentum going.
Mhm.
So our site in 2018 we opened up a cafe and then 2 different event spaces, and so it really acts as like a creative campus. We have a few other furniture reps in there that are commercial lines. That office, we have a shared office component as well. We throw a lot of events for, a lot of our associations, IDA and EWH, and then just a lot of fun parties in general.
Which, like, why not?
Yeah.
Especially if you have the space, like, why not? So, okay, so I feel like we could go so many different directions with this live. Is there anything you
Yeah.
want to, like, really touch on yourself? Like, are you wanting to touch on hospitality and the expansion of, like, the lighting, or do you want to touch on any shifts, or where do you want to go with this?
I can talk a little bit about the evolution of the company. I think that's kind of interesting. it's been interesting for me to observe. And then also like for designers, I think it's interesting when they watch their firms sort of evolve and pivot, or like a lot of firms have scaled dramatically over the last 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So what is it like to go from a 6-person firm to a 25-person firm to a 50-person firm?
Let's talk. I think that's great because especially right now, I think people are thinking about the next step, right? And I know
Mm-hmm.
you and I love to talk about that all the time, but like just not just staying in the present, but what's next. So yeah, talk
Yep.
about that. That would be great.
Yep. So when we started, it was my co-founder, partner, and I, and one apprentice. So it's three of us in this tiny little basement shop.
I love the word apprentice, Jackson.
Yeah,
It
we
sounds
still,
cool, but it's still like it's still a thing.
yeah,
You're
we still take that same approach. We have more of an informal apprenticeship. So your first couple of years, you're still, you have a other proper title. You're a production associate, but you're really in an apprenticing phase, trying to become an expert. So the first couple of years, the first year it was three of us, and then I was a visiting professor at a university, and so I would hire extra students to come and like, hey, we need to pack boxes for a day. You want to make some money?
like labor.
Yeah, like, hey, you want to, it was like
Experience,
everything from blowing glass to, yeah, like wiring up cord sets. I mean, you're just doing it all. And like our sourcing, so we source the electrical components, and our sourcing was like so rudimentary that like I couldn't get the parts pre-wired. So like I would be like at my house with my girlfriend at night, like wiring them up, like with, friends, like, or like drinking wine. We're like wiring up all these cord sets.
Oh my gosh.
So, you're really scrappy when you start. And I think like in these times, a lot of organizations and companies, especially smaller ones, will continue to have that. I mean, when you have been through that before in the startup type of culture, it's really beneficial because you know how to get scrappy. You're like, all right, cut that out. We're doing that.
Totally.
We're taking that on.
And it's almost like you always can revert back to it. You're like,
Yeah.
all right, send me in. Let's go.
Yeah. So I think pretty quickly you can go like into the frontline hands-on type of work, even if you're used to being sort of up more at a manager level. It's like, okay, I got to roll up my sleeves and I'm doing whatever it takes. So we've never really lost that sort of full.
Oh no, it froze.
Sorry.
For a hot second. Okay.
Yeah. I don't think we've ever really lost that. What we've tried to do is continually, polish the rough edges. One of the things that's really hard when you're starting out is to really be professional in all capacities, because it takes experience, time, money, kind of, and a few reps, right? You try it a few times and you learn. And so what we've tried to do is never really lose that sort of culture of like, kind of that do-it-yourself. I'm gonna just like take action, but continually refine so that it becomes more and more polished. And so over the years we've grown. We're about 20 people now in Hennepin Made, and we have it's about split about half and half on the production end, and then half on administrative, sales, product development. And so thinking about the evolution of the company, it's really interesting because the first few years we really relied on wholesale accounts, so like retail partnerships.
Okay.
So that was probably
a few of your big ones, just so people know kind of.
Yeah, I mean the biggest one is Room and Board. So they're based in Minneapolis as well. So that was the first partnership we had established. And after, a couple of years, I mean, that partnership just took us like 3 to 4 years to get caught up with because you're ramping up so fast. And so
what a big partnership too.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not like you started at like the mom, like you started with big ones.
Yeah, we went big right out of the gates. I remember the first, so my business partner was still in school at university. And so I'd only get him like 2 days a week. And so I had to ship out our first pallets, and we'd never like assembled a pallet of boxes before. So I'm wrapping all this stuff. The truck's like waiting, at the loading dock, and the guy's like getting anxious, like, dude, you were supposed to be done like an hour ago. And I'm like, it's only me down here in this basement.
Like, I don't know what else to do.
I got like packing tape and putting like taping labels on this stuff. And so anyway, I get it out the door, and I took a photo of it because I felt like so proud of like our effort, this small team of like 3 or 4 people. And then the next day, this guy, Chris Shirky, who we still work with, he's a warehouse manager. He calls me and he said, yeah, can we do a FaceTime video? I got to go through this. And he goes, this isn't going to work. He goes, he had to take, it was like 150 boxes. He had to take every single one apart, repack it all. And he goes, yeah, we should have done a training ahead of time on this.
Oh my gosh.
So that's what I was talking about, maybe getting a little bit more polished. But until you do it, you don't really know. So those first 4 to 5 years were just kind of catching up with Room and Board, and then starting to develop our own collections. And then In 2016, I hired Dana, who is involved in some of the next gen events,
Yeah,
who's our national sales manager.
I think she's on the live, actually.
Yeah, she is. She said she was going to watch. And so Dana came from Holly Hunt and walked in and was like, what? Am I getting into? And I think we sold it as like the opportunity, right? There's so much opportunity.
I really like hearing Dana's version of the story too.
Yeah. We were in this crappy basement and the walls leaked, and it was just like, I was like, really? You want to, there's growth potential, but it's pretty much that's what you're in for.
Oh my
So
goodness.
she really helped like craft, like a binder, because I didn't know what that was. She goes, where are your binders? And I was like, what's a binder? I went to art school. Like, I don't know. She's like, all right, we're going to start with that. So Dana really, and I was out on the road doing sales. We'd done ICFF a couple times. And so I'd gotten a start, but I was really kind of
like a feel of it, but you didn't know.
Yeah, I was in over my head. I was like, and we had a lot of interest right out of the gates. Like, I feel like we had good design and, good quality product. And so there was so much interest. Like, I couldn't really handle, managing like inquiries, and also I was still blowing glass at the time. So Dana came on, and then it took us probably about a year and a half to really get like sort of everything consistent. And she started selling and started, developing awareness right away. And so from 2016, that was really the start of kind of shifting our focus, still doing some of the wholesale accounts, but really saying, selling to designers, and we really think of it as like collaborating, working with designers. How can they leverage our capabilities, right? And how are we designing products that fit with what they're looking for, trying to anticipate those needs and still make it our aesthetic voice, but, really understanding what they value. So like the quality of finish, right? Like, you can have the most beautiful composition, the finish sucks. Like, who wants to use that product, right?
Totally.
Yeah. So really anticipating those things and then letting that drive where we're putting our effort. So from like 2017 through now, we've really pivoted to investing heavily in product development. So originally it was just me and then my business partner kind of figuring out the product development. We're both glassblowers. And then we hired an intern who now is one of our core designers. And then we're ramping up. We have three full-time people in design. One person handles all of our custom. We do a lot of customization to existing products is our most popular way of kind of leveraging our capabilities. So we have 3 full-time designers. We're bringing on probably a design intern, our product development intern this summer. Okay. So over the last 2 years, we really shifted from a glass company that makes lighting to a lighting company that's focused on glass, right? And that's like a really important shift, right? To think about the company. So the glass.
Jackson? Okay, froze for a second. You're back.
Oh, sorry. Thinking about how we service.
Alert you when it's freezing?
You're like, you get all like spotty too. It's like you become pixelated.
Oh, geez.
It's like the Matrix, I disappear and then I'm like all of a sudden back.
Here you are. You're back. Okay.
Yeah. I need a segue for 1 second. This is what my dog is doing right now.
Wait, show me. That chair is amazing, by the way.
She's on her back. She's on her back. She is like so over it.
She's really living the good life.
She's like, this is so boring. She's usually, we have a lot of dogs at the shop at the studio every day. So usually she's getting chased by a bunch of other dogs.
So she's just like, it's me and you.
She's like, this is lame. And we've given her so many treats, like that doesn't even work now. She's kind of like, yeah, whatever.
Well, did she go on the hike with you when you went hiking?
Yeah. I get usually one afternoon a week that I just I put a lot of miles on, and then she's tired for like the next day.
Oh my gosh, so great.
Yeah, so the segue is our company is actually really just about dogs. That's like all anybody cares about.
As every company should be, right? Come on.
But that culture part is so important. I mean, and how you talk internally about what value you drive. So when we really started to articulate that shift, the company was mostly made up of glassblowers, and we said, hey, look, for this to continue to grow and to continue to create career opportunities and pathways for craft to happen, we're really a design company. Yeah, we're not losing our identity as a glass company. We're still very much about glass, but we service design their needs. And so their needs and how we can service them is lighting. So that's really what we need to focus on. And the glass is what, brings the heart and the soul to it. So I think that's like sort of some of the key points in our evolution. Well, I'm no longer
super cool. I feel like, especially for you, like growing the brand, I think, don't you agree that sometimes being a little naive about like what you're getting into is super beneficial? You know what I mean? Because like you went to art school and like you built this kind of as a progression. Like, do you think part of that helped you? Because I think some glass blowers probably wouldn't have been able to think to go after room and board because they would have overthought it. Or like, you know what I mean? I feel like that's part of,
Yeah,
for me at least, is like having a
yeah.
little bit of
So I
naive like thought.
Yeah, so I think there's two sides to that. One is the naive side, and then the other side is having the willingness to change your perspective, the
Mm.
story you're telling yourself,
Yep.
having the willingness to continually tweak that, right? So like if we went back 7 or 8 years ago, the story I was telling myself, the identity I had at the time is like, I'm a glass blower. I don't care about anything but blowing glass, right?
This is just what it is. Yeah,
That's all I care about, right? And then you like start working with people, like, you know, you got like a teammate and they want opportunity and they are like, you know, I want to make space for me to like have growth potential and stuff like that. And then you go, well, I think if you want to build an organization or build something meaningful, you think like, well, who are my collaborators, right? Like more than like customers who I sell to, like who's my people, right? Like
yeah,
who am I around and how am I providing like meaningful connection with them? And so, you know, when we started, I was just like, we're going to be glass blowers, right? And then I was like, oh, I have like 3 or 4 people I absolutely love and they're super talented. Like I got to make sure like they can like get an apartment and pay rent and like, but
mm-hmm.
still not lose what they love to do, right? It's not like everything's automated. And yeah, so there's kind of that part of shifting what you do to fit where you can drive value to a community and a network of people. And then there's the other part of just jumping in. And I think that's really the curiosity. And the curiosity always has that naive component. Like if I would have known how stressful certain points were going to be or how much we were going to like just have stuff totally fail, like
Yeah,
at really critical moments,
yeah.
I would just been like, oh, this is going to be that sounds terrible. This is way too much work.
Totally, totally. And then like, yeah, I feel like going into it and just dreaming big and being like, whatever's gonna happen, it like gives you that like space. You know what I mean? For cool
Yeah, and
stuff.
sometimes you overreach, and then you're like you figure out how to like eke out a way through it, and you're like, I'm not going that far again. Like I'll give you a great example. We were moving out of that little tiny rental shop into our building, and I had landed like the biggest custom project we ever got. I totally underpriced it. I underestimated how much work it was. We didn't really have the internal capacity. And at the same time we were moving, like over between Christmas and New Year's, we started this. So it was like in
This
January, we're
sounds like
moving,
totally something I would do.
we're literally moving the company. And I am like driving this project forward. And oh,
Yes.
it gets even better because we don't do install because we're not certified electricians. And so it's like there's a week till this restaurant opens. And it's a restaurant right downtown Minneapolis. And the electrician totally walks off the project and is just like, I'm not touching this. And it was these huge sculptural chandeliers. And we typically don't do that much full custom. And so the owner's like, well, what do we do? I got 5 days. And I was like, we can get, in Minnesota, you can get this special like permit that you can be with an electrician and do assembly. And so I said, well, we can get this permit. I can rally my 14 people to work around the clock.
Oh
While
my
we're,
god.
and we did it. We got it done. But it was so sketchy, just the whole thing trying to get it to come together.
So
And
you're
we're like,
never again.
yeah, I was just like, and everybody just hated me in the company. They're all just like, and I
And
was
you're
like,
trying to like stay positive. Like we
I'm
don't
trying to stay
right.
positive, and they're like, dude, we are moving the company right now, and I'm working like literally 18 hours a day, sleeping for 6 hours, going back on site 18 hours a day. So those are the moments where you're like totally naive, and then
Yeah,
it starts to become apparent. You're like, I'm in over my head.
totally. But even that though, that's like a learning experience, right? Like I think you said at the beginning of this, you can only do that. Like you have to do it to learn it and know it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So now like we have a process internally. So if Dana gets a RFQ for a project of that sort of scale, we have a team meeting with all the people that are going to have to be involved. And we
So
talk
you're
through
all
how
like
we would do
aware
it
at the
and
beginning.
really what it would take. Yeah. Versus, like, the classic like dreamer, right? Yeah, we'll do it.
Like whatever, let's do it.
Yeah,
Totally.
we'll do it. We'll figure it out. So it,
Especially when you bring in money and you're like, now you're like,
yeah.
oh wait, is that worth the cost? Like I know you were talking to me about time and worth the cost at one point, and it's like you got to really, that's something you got to like figure out as you go. It's like, is this
Yeah.
worth the cost?
Yeah, and I think it's like designers, I think, deal with that a lot because they have to understand who their right clients are.
Right.
that really get what skills they bring to the table and their unique capabilities, right? Because
Yeah.
all firms have a little bit different character, a little different skill set. Yeah, it overlaps and stuff, but finding those clients that really can leverage and trust your skill set, that's when it really works. And just knowing that and feeling it, and you're like, this, and finding more of that, right? And less of like the crazy, like, oh, we're stretching way out to try to do this.
Totally, totally. Okay, what's one of your favorite projects you've ever done? Can you describe it? Especially, I know I'm seeing a bunch of designers on here, so like maybe you could describe like one of your favorite installs or projects, and like kind of like if you can take us there.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, the probably one of the favorite installs that we've ever done is in our cafe on site called Parallel.
Okay.
It's the Nina pendant, so it's a new installation, and I love it a lot because it has a lot of motion in it. It's probably like 60 or 70 units, and so it comes across the whole coffee bar and makes sort of a swirl like curve, and it's just amazingly beautiful. And the cafe is all glass on the front, so at night when you drive by, you can see this sort of like line.
Wow.
And so aesthetically, I love it. I get to see it pretty much every day, not right now because I'm at home.
Mm-hmm.
But also, like, our whole team came together. Our designer, Sean, did the layout, and then they did it like the night before our launch party. So that was a really meaningful installation.
Yeah.
That was at scale. I get excited when stuff's kind of at larger scale, those larger scale installations, because you really see the power of the product.
Mm-hmm.
And the objects, and like we're around it every day in the shop, and sometimes it just like you become sort of accustomed to it. You become like desensitized that it's not special anymore. It's still special, but it's like you just kind of get used to it because you're around it all the time. So when we're out and traveling and we see installations, like a lot of times in the context, you're like, wow, we make really beautiful things. Sometimes.
That's such a good segue. Can you see it?
Oh,
Look
yes,
at
we
the
made that.
Hennepin Made piece that I got last time I was there, and then there was like a little glass that goes on it.
Nice.
Jackson, I still love this, but I haven't drank out of it because it's too pretty. So like I have to figure out, like, I'm gonna display it more than I'm gonna use it, I think. But.
Yeah, well, maybe we'll make you like another one that's a little bit like more ugly, and you can use the other one or something.
Yeah, I can't touch pretty like glass things. I'll totally ruin them.
So on the other installs, my favorite just overall is restaurant installs, because a lot of times you can go to those sites and like you experience it when it's alive.
Yeah.
And so seeing like the chef and the food in action, and then really evaluating sort of did the emotional qualities come to life in that, how the designer intended. And then you see like all these people having this experience and really don't have any idea of the detail that went into it. Yet the emotions are there. They feel special. They're relaxed. The lighting, is soft in certain areas. It's a little bright in other areas. Even like the texture of like, is the booth velvet, or is it leather, right? Like all those little details coming together and seeing our product in those contexts. That's by far my favorite. And it could be as simple as like we have one pendant in the whole restaurant, and just seeing like how that interacts with the whole theater of going out to eat in a restaurant experience.
That's what the designers always say after every dinner. They always say their favorite moment is getting to see the work in action and being like, oh my gosh, we like took that from our brains and we put it into a space, and now you're experiencing your life based on that, and like it came from our head. Like that's so crazy.
Yeah, and it can create just a real magic in that setting. And it's like it is theater because like guest arrives, there's a time sequence, give or take, right?
Yeah.
And then the guest ends, and they're going to have this like experience that hopefully is what the designer and owner or chef intends.
So cool. So, and it all started in the shop. Glass.
Yep. Yep.
I love it. Okay, cool. Well, is there anything you kind of want to close on? I know we could talk for a long time, but I want to make sure we keep this kind of short. Is there anything you want to kind of final thoughts or anything you want to close on?
Well, I'll mention a little bit of sort of how we're trying to like cope or provide a path, I guess, for our leaders in our company. We've talked a lot about, the feeling of helplessness and sadness is part of it, right? Just not being around each other. So one of the things we've talked a lot about is just taking action, right? Any action that you can just start to take, like removes that sense of hopelessness or helplessness, right? Because you feel like empowered when you take action. So we've been like sort of reiterating that consistently internally. and just making or creating things, right? Whether it's a plan or a rendering or a blown glass object, just that act of creating helps it helps us heal. It helps us make us feel better. It helps us feel empowered. So that's something we're really focused on internally as we have less control over a lot of things in our reality in our world right now. What we do have control is about, the things that we can empower ourselves to like take action on. So yeah, that's, I think, kind of like a positive message from what we're trying to communicate internally and do internally in our company.
I love that. Awesome. Well, Jackson, thank you for being a sponsor. We appreciate you so much. We love working with you guys. And for sure, if anyone hasn't seen Hennepin Made, you've got to check it out. It's like very beautiful stuff. And obviously, Jackson's pretty cool. So I think you communicate that well, Jackson.
Okay, good. Hopefully I lived up to the bar. We have a lot of cool people in the company, and usually I'm like a few bars down.
Hard.
So
once they get cool, you gotta keep
that's right. I don't have any tattoos, that's like, I'm like,
man, that really
there's
did.
a lot of
that
pressure.
Really that was a good selling point when I walked through. I'm like, ooh,
Yep.
guys with tats, blowing glass. Love it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. It's hot in there. The shop is very hot in general.
Yeah, physically warm.
Yep, that's right.
All right, Jackson. Well,
all right, thanks for having me. Everybody have a good day.
Stay
Take
safe.
care.
Talk to you soon.